first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler. We're live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, and we cover a wide range of topics, and we get to have a little bit longer form conversations as well as part of that. And as you can see on your screen, this is what we're going to talk about here today. The elk populations in Oregon are something that probably a lot of you have encountered before, particularly if you're heading over there to the coast. But if you haven't, we're going to talk about that as well, and just what to do when you encounter them, how to recognize what's going on, how to make sure if you do encounter, say, an animal that may seem out of the ordinary as far as sick, something like that. What do you do in those situations? So we have a lot to do, a lot to talk about here. And to do so, we're joined by Beth Quillian from ODFW, the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And Beth, thanks for being here as always. Appreciate your input during these segments to learn more. And this one, I think for a lot of people who have seen maybe some of the videos that are out there, we've got some we'll show you. But encountering an elk herd is something that could be something that people could end up doing. So I wanted to just maybe get an overview to start off about the elk population in Oregon.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Greg. It's good to be here as always. Yeah, so as a lot of people in Oregon have probably come across elk, as you mentioned, especially in the Coast Range when you're headed to the beach, places like Cannon Beach. Certainly a spectacle always to see them on the beach or running through town. The elk that are on the coast are one of two subspecies of elk that we have here in Oregon. They're Roosevelt elk, and they are the largest in terms of body size of the two subspecies we have here. The other subspecies are Rocky Mountain elk, and all elk west of Highway 97 are considered Roosevelt elk, and then to the east, those are Rocky Mountain elk. They do overlap a little bit in the Cascade Range, but when we're talking about Western Oregon, we're talking about Roosevelt elk. And they are really concentrated in the Cascades and also in the Coast Range.
Interesting. So it's just, that's kind of the dividing line of where just decided,
yes.
Okay, this is this side and this side.
Yep.
So when we're talking about that, how large is the elk population in Oregon?
So Roosevelt elk, I think our estimated population is around 59,000 in the state for Roosevelt, and then Rocky Mountain is minimum, I think, 74,000 and higher. So there's quite a bit of Roosevelt elk, especially in the coast and in the Coast Range. There's more in the Coast Range than there are in the Cascades.
And when we're talking about Western Oregon, somewhere that's probably a little more populated than, say, the eastern side of the state, what are the most common interactions that humans end up having with elk herds typically?
Sure. So, of course, you've got hunters when they're out and about in the woods. They're going to be encountering elk, maybe close, maybe not. But when you're talking about just other Oregonians who are traveling, you might see them in an agricultural field on your way to the coast. So that might be from a distance. That's where a lot of the sightings are going to come from. You're going to be kind of far away. You might see them out in an agricultural field or something like that. Or if you go to a wildlife area like Jewel Meadows, closer to the coast, you can definitely get a great look at elk there. And normally, there's going to be some distance between you and those elk because they're afraid of people. But as you get to some of these towns like Cannon Beach and others, you've got elk that have become pretty used to people because there's a lot of people that visit the coast. And so that's why, you get some of these videos of people who are standing on the beach in front of Haystack Rock and there's the elk herd right there on the beach, or you're coming out of a shop downtown and the elk are running through the street. So those are kind of unique experiences to those places where elk have become more used to people.
What is the right thing to do if you do find yourself that close to a herd of elk, whether it's downtown or on the beach or something like that over there?
Definitely keeping your distance. Stay as far away as you can. You want to give them space. They may seem used to people and they might, let people get kind of close to them, but they are animals that weigh hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and wildlife can be unpredictable. You don't know what is going to happen. So keeping your distance is the best course of action. Keep small children near you. If you've got a dog or any pet, keeping it on a leash. Dogs are seen as a threat by elk and deer too. And there have been instances where elk or deer have hurt or killed dogs. So it's important, keep your dog on a leash, don't let them get close to elk, and just enjoy viewing from a distance. It can be a really cool experience to see elk so close, but giving them the space that they need is super important, especially in the summer. Around May is when elk calves start coming on the scene, and those cow elk are very protective, and you do not want to be anywhere close to them when they've got a calf. And then the same goes for the fall during the rut. That's when the bull elk are challenging each other, and they are very aggressive at that time.
So stay away no matter what, and especially during
Yes.
those times, be extra careful, it
Yep.
sounds like. Um, if someone, say, encounters an elk, we'll talk about elk, I guess, just specifically for this one. If somebody encounters an elk that seems to be acting strangely, maybe sick, maybe laying on the ground and not moving, what is the right thing to do in those situations?
ODFW is definitely interested in getting a report. First of all, especially if it's an elk, the safest thing to do is probably to keep your distance and to not intervene and to give ODFW a call. We definitely want to know about it. And if you can give us details, the location, the time, where you're at, our wildlife biologists, they will work with our health lab and our vets to determine the best course of action.
And one thing in particular, I know people are maybe familiar with the term, but may not know exactly what it is when it comes to chronic wasting disease. Could you tell us all, what that is, I guess, and is that something that's a threat in Oregon?
Yes, so chronic wasting disease, it's a fatal disease that infects deer, elk, and moose across North America. CWD has not been detected in Oregon, but it has been found in bordering states, Idaho, California, and Washington. So it's a big concern for ODFW, and we have been testing and sampling for chronic wasting disease. It's been on our radar since 1996. And in the past few years, as our neighboring states and other states in the country have made detections, we've upped our sampling, trying to do as much as possible. And what causes CWD? It is an infectious protein called a prion, and those are shed by infected animals, and that prion can stay in the soil for years, which could infect other animals, for a long period of time. And the disease is spread by nose-to-nose contact between animals or through urine, feces, blood, saliva, etc. So ODFW, we try to test as many animals as possible, whether that's hunter harvested animals. We encourage people to either bring their harvest to a field office, a check station, or there are some taxidermists and meat processors who are partners with us, and they help in the sampling effort. And we also test roadkill deer and other sick looking deer, elk, etc., that are found in the state as much as we can.
What are there other illnesses then? I'm assuming that that someone could encounter an elk that may have it.
I'm sorry, could you repeat
Sorry,
that question?
That question was not framed very well. Are there other diseases or illnesses that elk could contract that they may have when you encounter them?
Yeah, there are a couple things that we see sometimes in elk. Elk hoof disease is a big one, especially in Western Oregon. We see continued problems with that. That's caused by a bacteria. And then periodically with elk, we also see heavy lungworm burdens. Elk can have lungworms in a small amount and they can survive and be fine, but sometimes that lungworm burden can get really high, and that's when you start seeing animals dying from that. Actually, in Newport right now, we have a bit of an outbreak of lungworm, and it could be caused by a mild winter. You get higher mortality or animals dying in that temperate weather. The worms thrive in that kind of environment. But those are a couple more common ones that elk can get. Of course, there are other less common ones that people can, look up if you're interested in learning more about the more obscure things that elk could get.
And it sounds like the best thing to do is if you encounter an elk or an animal that is ill, is to call ODFW.
Yep, leave it alone, give it space, and you can report it to ODFW. That's always very helpful for us.
All right. Anything else that you think is important for people to know?
I would just again point out that it's really cool that we have these neat opportunities to see elk, and I would just emphasize, especially as we're kind of heading into spring, that's the time when it's most important to be vigilant and make sure you're giving wildlife the space that it needs, whether it's elk, deer, or any other animal.
All right, Beth, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it of going through this, getting this information out there. Even if some people may have known some of that, there's a lot that we just covered right there. So it's always a great refresher,
Sure.
even if that's the case. So thanks, Beth.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
And for everybody watching, this is Fox 12 Now. We're going to take a break. We'll be back here in just a minute with more. So thanks for joining us. Don't forget you can watch this and all of our other segments on the Fox 12 Oregon app as well. But we'll be right back with more.